Uh, hey guys, this is our first lecture. So, whenever we dive into Spring Boot, we just need our application to just build something, right? So, whenever we talk about Spring Boot, right? Whenever we talk about Spring Boot, it gives us a application that is ready, that is initialized ready, right? That is at the initial level, it is ready by Spring servers itself. So, we just have to go to our browser and just write start.spring.io start.spring.io, right? It gives me an spring initializer. It is just going to add an application which covers all the servers that are going to be run by spring, right? So here we see this project directory, right? This is maven. And what does maven do? Maven is just basically a development tool. We are going to talk about it later. Language Java. We are going to choose the version of Spring Boot we are going to use. Group name should be something unique. Okay, so I'm just going to name it as YouTube lecture first. Okay, artifact. Basically, whenever we are creating an application, it just this after creating an application, this system gives us just a folder, and what that folder name would be is going to determine what this artifact name is. Basically we are just telling कि at the end मुझे जो भी folder मिल रहा है ना, जो भी मेरा application बना उसके end में मुझे जो भी तुम system मुझे folder दे रहा है, उस folder का नाम क्या है, उस folder का नाम artifact है. ठीक है. So I'm just going to give it name lecture 1. Okay, I'm not gonna change name, description, package name. Okay, package name it just automatically decides itself by just seeing the group and artifact names. Okay, so when we comes into packaging, it gives us jar and var. Basically, jar is Java archive, and this is web application archive var. Right? Basically, the difference is jar has its embedded servers. Right here in jar, when we are going to talk about Spring Boot has its own embedded servers like Tomcat, Jelly, right? But in var we have to deploy the applications first. So this is the basic difference. Okay, if you want to search about on this, you can just go and ChatGPT it. Configuration, I'm just going to keep it properties, and I'm just going to use the Java 21 version, right? And here at the dependencies, I'm going to add what Spring Web, right? Basically, it helps us to build web, including RESTful applications using Spring MVC, and basically used to develop an web application, right? So after generating it, I get a zip file, right, of the name lecture 1. This is the artifact name, right? When I reach here, okay, why it is not opening? Where I was in downloads, right? Okay, I don't know. Okay, just give me a second. Okay. This PC, I have to go to downloads, right? Okay, this is lecture 1. I'm going to extract everything in my Lotus D. Let's say I'm creating a new folder name YouTube, right? Okay, I'm just going to YT Spring Boot, YouTube Spring Boot, right? And I'm just going to extract all that here. Here I get this file extracted. When I'm going to open my IntelliJ idea, राइट ओके सो आई डोंट थिंक कि मुझे तुम लोगों को ये बताना पड़ेगा कि इंटेलिज आईडी कैसे खोलते हैं कैसे इंस्टॉल करते हैं राइट दिस इज़ अ बेसिक थिंग कोई भी आजकल छोटा बच्चा भी ये सब चीज़ें कर सकता है ठीक है तो आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू ओपन माई फाइल ओके ओपन It was in Lotus T, YouTube Spring Boot, right? I'm just going to open lecture one. Okay, this window, oh, trust project. Okay, so I have my this file, right? So yes, okay, I have my Java file. This is how my Java file looks like, where I'm going to work, right? Okay, so at the basic, for the basics, I'm just going to write system dot out dot println, right? Hello, and I'm just going to run this. Okay, so it is just going to, it is showing us some this red line. This red line is just because it is downloading plugins and doing all its stuff, right? So that's why I'm going to run this. It is executing, and okay, I don't know what just happened. Okay. What happened, brother? Okay, I just didn't watched here. I have to write it here, and now if I run this, I get the hello printed, right? So this is our hello. सो वी नो कि हमारा जावा अच्छे से काम कर रहा है, स्प्रिंग बूट पूरा अच्छे से काम कर रहा है. दिस इज आर what start dot spring dot io initializer did, right? So here we are. Whenever we talk about spring boot, right? Whenever we talk about spring boot, we have some things to remember about. We have these. These are not kidneys, right? ये kidney नहीं है भाई. These are basically beans. What do you mean? What do you mean by beans? Okay, beans are basically just the objects that are not created using new keyword. Simplest thing. Did you get this? If I talk about कि भाई अब beans क्या है, मैं तुमसे पूछूं तो तुम लोग क्या मुझे ये बता सकते हो कि भाई beans ना वो ऑब्जेक्ट्स हैं जो न्यू की मदद से नहीं हुए, बट वो क्रिएट नहीं हुए न्यू की मदद से. बट हियर इज द कैच. This is not universal definition of beans. When I talk about beans, right? Whenever I talk about beans, it gives me it gives me a object, right? It is used to create object. It is used to manage object. What is used to create object and what is used to manage the objects? It is our Spring framework. Whenever my Spring framework is creating, managing, and deleting these objects, right? Then these objects are known as beans. Whenever I talk about beans, क्या मुझे simplest बात पता चली कि भाई beans are nothing. Beans are basically are just objects. Beans are just objects which are created, managed, and deleted by framework. Spring framework, right? That's it. Did I get that? Okay. Did I get that? मैंने क्या कहा? मैंने सिर्फ ये कहा कि beans are simplest, basically बस objects है जिन्हें ना मेरा स्प्रिंग फ्रेमवर्क ही क्रिएट करेगा, मेरा स्प्रिंग फ्रेमवर्क ही मॉडिफाई करेगा, मैनेज करेगा और मेरा स्प्रिंग फ्रेमवर्क ही डिलीट करेगा. Basically, you must have heard of garbage collector, right? What basically garbage collector does, if something is not used for a very long time, right, it is just going to uh, deallocate that location so that वो memory जो use हो रही है वो फालतू में use ना हो, right? Allocation delocation. So this and that is an advantage in Java, क्योंकि C++ में हम लोगों को खुद allocation और delocation करना पड़ता था. C में तुम्हें याद होगा malloc होता था, deloc होता था. But here in Java, garbage collector is working. And here, when I am using beans, I am giving all these powers to Spring to create the beans, to create the objects, to create the them, and to delete them. And that is basically what, when the Spring framework is managing all this stuff, I'm just calling that object as what? Beans. That's it. जब मैं बात करता हूँ beans की, right? I'm just going to check out my notes notebook, right? So whenever I talk about beans, I have two methods. I have two methods to create a bean, right? Okay, yeah. So वो दो methods मैं यहाँ पे लिखता हूँ @component and by using @configuration. You must not get it. You would not. I, sorry for the slack, यार. ठीक है. You must not getting this. कि what I'm just doing here, right? So what I just did that is basically how I'm just going to create beans. Okay. So I'm here, right? Whenever I talk with you about what about objects, right? I'm just going to uh, take it as what, let's say it providing some service, let's say order service class. I just created an order service class, right? And in this order service class I have what okay, in this order service class I am just creating public void uh, message, right? System dot out dot println. This is order service executing master. Okay, that was it. When I get here, I don't know why it is showing me uh, errors here. Is there any? Okay, system dot out. This is system dot out dot println, right? So when I'm here in this level 1 application, right, we know how to create an object. I'm just going to say what, uh, if I want to create an object, I'm just going to, let's say what, this is order service, right? I'm just going to say order service object is equals to new. Okay, order service. I just created a new order service object, right? When I call that this object dot message and I just run this, right? Okay. So when I just run this, I get what? Hello, this is order service executing master, isn't it? So I just created an object using new method. But here I don't want to create an object using new. And I would be telling key, let's write into our nodes, right? I would be telling you why we do not use new keyword to create objects, right? There is a good reason for it. So if anyone knows what is tight coupling is, so tight coupling न्यू की मदद से हमारी सिर्फ टाइट कपलिंग हो जाती कपलिंग हमारी टाइट हो जाती है एंड आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू you will understand this right later in this video. So I just removed the new keyword, right? And I want to create what? I want to create a new object, right? I'm sorry, I'm creating a new object using beans. Sorry, I'm just going to create beans, right? So here we are. I'm just going to go up to the classes and at the rate component, right? I just write the components here and at the level 1 application I'm just going to what? I'm just going to when I'm creating an object, right? I'm going to create an object here and this is my object order service. Object is equals to, sorry, that is it. So I'm creating an object taking from here order services object, right? But it is not somehow wired to it, right? It does not know what to do, right? So to do this thing, I use at the rate autowired. Autowired basically just do connects this order service object to that class where I just written at the rate component. You get it? That is how this class and that class are auto wired. You can just imagine it. They're wiring between them. After wiring between them, I'm just going to do what? I'm just going to here add. I'm just going to add here the configuration classes. Just give me a there is a method run method where everything we are going to do. We are not going to do anything in main, right? So for that we uses I'm so sorry. Okay. We implements command line runner, right? मैंने बहुत दिन से करा नहीं था, so I just got this out of my mind. So don't blame me, यार. I'm just a learner, ठीक है? I'm learning with along with you, and we are just going to learn these in 2 months, right? So माफ करना यार कि मैं बहुत बड़ा ज्ञानी नहीं हूँ, but we are going to learn this because we are going all through it. Okay, so I'm just going to implement this command line runner. Here I get this basically command line runner does nothing. It just implements this run method, right? And anything which I'm going to do with this object is going to happen inside this run method. I'm just going to call object dot message, right? So when I call this object dot message, I'm going to run this. So here we are. Okay. Um, This is order services executing master and then the hello. Okay. So this is not how we created an object using new keyword, right? This is the beans doing its work. This is the spring framework doing its work. Okay? This is not new. This was it. And at another level, I told you that we we are using what? We are using at the rate configuration, right? So when we talk about configuration, in configuration, we don't have to do anything. We just don't have to do anything. When I'm here, I'm not doing at the rate component. I'm just doing at the rate configuration. Uh, at the rate configuration, right? After I did at the rate configuration, I am just going to return what? I'm just going to return an object of this class. And there is a method, right? Return new order services. I guess this was the way. Let me just check, right? So return new, not this. Return new order services. This was it. We're going to do this, but inside we are going to do this, but inside a constructor. I just did order service object, right? Order service. I just created an object of order services, right? And this was acting as a constructor, right? So it returns an order services via this new keyword. So after doing this, I just have to tell it that it is a bean. And when I tell it that it is a bean, I can use the bean here. I can basically, I don't have to do this. Okay. Uh, if I try to run this, if I try to run this, it is what? It shows me that this is order services executing master hello, right? This is order services object. You would say I am also creating order services object here at the Autowiring. Is this going to run now? Let's see. So we cannot find symbol variable object here. If I sorry. Okay. So if I just remove this object, can I say I don't have to use AutoAdd? Let's run it and check. Was AutoAdd needed? It finished with executing code, right? And it just says that cannot involve YouTube lecture 1 order services message because this dot object is null. That means this object which we created here in the order services which we are returning is not there. I have to say that it is auto-wired. And if I say it is not object, it is, let's name it as power. I have to name it as power. So when I run it, right, when I run it, okay, I'm sorry. Let's just run it right. So Ensure that your compiler is using parameters. Okay, so when I did object, it is working. But when I name it as power and then I name it as power, is it working now? Let's just see, right? Let's just see it here. Okay. So ensure that your compiler is configured to use the parameter flag. You may need to update both your build tool settings as well as ID. Basically, this may due to parameter name information. So why we are just saying this? Just because the parameters ensuring that our we are ensuring that our bean name would be an object. So I have to name it as object. If I am doing power here, right, it is just creating a bean here with a name power. That means एक object create हो गया वाया स्प्रिंग, ठीक है, इसे क्रिएट हमने करा है, बट एवरीथिंग इज गोइंग टू बी मैनेज बाय स्प्रिंग फ्रेमवर्क. ठीक है, तुम लोग कहोगे कि न्यू क्यों लगवाया, तो न्यू इसीलिए लगाया है क्योंकि इट्स अ कन्वेंशन हाउ वी यूज एट द रेट कॉन्फ़िगरेशन एंड एट द रेट बीन. सो जब मैंने ऐसा बीन करा, आई हैव टू यूज द सेम नेम, एंड व्हेन आई do use the same name, it is just going to run, it is just going to implement, right? See, this is auto services executing master hello. So we get how to create the beans, right? And this was it. And at the rate configuration, we why don't we use new key? Just because new keys create a tight coupling. What is tight coupling basically is, if I'm creating an e-commerce, right? If I'm creating an e-commerce app and I do use a new object for my payment services, right? And so my these payment services are currently using Razorpay for the payments, right? Currently using Razorpay for the payments. Okay, but if in the future I will say that hey, I just want to use Stripe payment. I just want to use Stripe payment. Along with that, I want to use some other payment app, right? So it would not allow. It would be like कि भाई अब रेजर पे हटा के ये यूज करने में बहुत डिफिकल्टी आ जाएगी. That is why we do not offer new to create our objects. When we create beans, Spring has to do all the work, Spring has to manage the work, and Spring has to delete the work on its own, right? That is the reason why we do use beans, why we do prefer beans over objects, right? Let me check more things. If Spring Boot, Spring Bean, okay, I've told you that, I've told you that. So yeah, and also whenever I need to test a tight coupling, right, whenever I need to test something with created with objects created with new keyword, right, it is hard to test them. And with beans we don't have to test them, right? It is created by Spring Framework. All the work is done by Spring Framework, so we don't have to worry about it. That is it. And yeah, so this was it for today. I think ये ज़्यादा हो गया, ठीक है. आई वुड से भाई 30 मिनट हो गए. सो आई वुड से कि we just learned about how to use beans, right? How we are going to use beans, how we are going to make create beans, and what are beans, and why do we use beans, right? So this is all about beans. And I just created a 30-minute video. So कल मिलते हैं.